All right, well, so we are okay with TypeScript and turning things in, and there were a few of you who swung by my office, and I hope helped a little bit. And so if others of you are insecure about how to deal with that stuff, stop by and ask me. I've got class at 10 to 4, but I'm there to help you between now and 10 to 4. I get out of class at 5:30. If you still are insecure or need help at 5:30, catch me before I leave, and I will stay here for as long as there are people asking me questions. Now, my goal is to leave shortly after 5:30, fight the traffic, which takes me 35 minutes to get home, get on my recumbent exercise bike and ride for 35 minutes or 40, so my knees are happier. But that's okay, I'll ride at 8 o'clock. Now, I have a rule. I won't get on the bike after 8. Anytime up to 8 is good.
Why is that?
Because I ride the exercise bike for 35, 40 minutes. Then I do 200 crunches. Then I do 100 monster walks. And then I do 100 shoulder exercises.
What's monster walk?
Monster walk is where you take an elastic, what do you call it? Stretchy, heavy duty rubber band,
Yeah.
huge rubber band. And you wrap it around your ankles.
Oh.
And then you go like this.
Oh, okay.
And what it does is makes your hips continue to work. And so I do that forward, and then I do it backwards. My wife thinks it's a dumb thing to do because she says, you're gonna fall on your head. But so far I haven't, So that's my Tuesday and Thursday goal. That's what I do on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and some Sundays, I play tennis, and then after tennis, I lift some weights for half hour, 40 minutes. So I'm trying to stay young. I'm trying to stay young even though, Ochi?
Uche.
Yeah. Laughed when I said I was 50 on last Thursday. So, well, any questions? No, it was good. It was a good spontaneous laughter. And I maybe should have shot for 58 or 62. 58 is good. Both of them are optimistic. Any questions? Questions? I'm waiting for questions. No questions? Question. So now you got to tell me who you are. I got to try to learn your names.
Jared.
Jared. All right.
I turned in my project and I was wondering if you're okay with the P1 only or the / on it.
Yeah, that actually is environmental in its working. He asked if it's okay that / is required. And it is the case that in my environment, / won't be required even if it's required in your environment. And so I will run that correctly. And however you do it, it's fine.
Actually, also.
Cameron.
Yes, sir.
I know one.
For when I compile my Java, it compiles correctly, but also shoots off a warning saying it uses an unsafe method.
Yeah, I don't penalize for warnings. Not particularly excited about them, but I don't react to it. Or what's the other one? Unsafe?
Unsafe methods, yeah.
Yeah, unsafe method. I don't penalize for that. Any other questions?
Does that give you, when you use public method, you get that warning when you use public method?
Yeah, you can have warnings.
Did
you change the due date to the third or is it the first?
What do you say?
Is the due date still tonight for the project?
The due date, yes, you have to turn it in by 11:59 tonight. 11:59 tonight is on time. And so if you do turn in minus D, it's going to say Saturday night. Well, Saturday night is the last time or date that the project will be accepted. So you can turn it in, it'll accept it tonight, it'll be on time. You turn it in anytime tomorrow before 11:59, it'll be 1 day late. You turn it in anytime on Saturday before 11:59, it'll be 2 days late. It won't accept it on Sunday. And I intend to grade the projects then on Sunday. So if you turn it in tomorrow, I'll calculate grade normally, and then I do a check the date of the time I get the file. And so Linux timestamps the file's date when I get it. And I don't look at the time, I just look at the day it tells me. And so arguably if you turned it in at midnight, it would still say Thursday, and you'd be fine even though it's a minute late. Because again, I only look at the day. Make sense? So again, turn-in's date is 2 days late. The project specs date is on time. Okay, any other questions? Everybody's good? Got TypeScript under control? I admit that's a little confusing, but once you get a handle on what I'm expecting there, you do the same thing every project and it doesn't change, it's just mechanical. So, Brandon?
Regarding TypeScript, so do you just want us to make and compile it, or do you want us to execute it using people in the TypeScript?
I want you to execute it as well, one time. So I want you to, in the TypeScript, I want you to make it so that it shows your project will compile. Then I want you to P1 file name it so it shows your project will execute. And the output, of course, will be there. And that's in essence all I really want in the TypeScript file.
If we included a few different test files for you, just in case you had a backup, do you want us to show all those test files tested? So
Let's start over.
I added like 5 C- programs just to show that they worked on that.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yep, that's fine. You can put more stuff in there. All I'm really doing is saying what I expect at a minimum. And you're gonna love this. All this hassle with TypeScript file. I'm not gonna look at your TypeScript file if your project will execute. If I can unshaw your project and run it without any issues, then I'm assuming your TypeScript file is okay. I might look at it just for grins on the first project. But the purpose of the TypeScript file is to ensure that you have tested your project. You should turn it in if you haven't tested it. Actually, I take that all back. I shouldn't have said that. My mouth got ahead of my brain again. I'm going to look at your TypeScript file because I'm giving you 2 points for your TypeScript. And the P1 is executable. I'm giving you 2 points for that. So I want to make sure it's all there. So I changed my mind on that. I'm going to look at them all. My scripts will open all those up and show them to me quickly, so it'll be easy. Any other questions?
Just to
Hamid,
Sorry.
right? Hamid?
Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr.
Oh, man.
I was just wondering about the upper and lowercase. I heard some things about it.
So all of my test files will contain lowercase characters. And the only uppercase is the E in a floating point number. And E has to be uppercase. If it's a lowercase e, it doesn't count. And everything else I give you will be uppercase. If you will be lowercase, yes, sorry. Everything else I give you will be lowercase. If you choose to put in uppercase, your project should handle it. And so if you say integer x, h, y, obviously an identifier. If you say integer x, h, y, also an identifier, simply two different identifiers. Case counts. And so if this is in there, your project should handle it fine. It's just another character. On the other hand, I mean, you're doing character testing. And so you really only, you're saying, is it a character? You only need to really test for lowercase characters. I'm only going to give you lowercase, with the exception of the E and floating point. Brandon?
But in regards to uppercase and keywords, how would that work? So
Keywords will all be lowercase. If they're uppercase, they're going to turn into identifiers. And so, while is a key word. Is an identifier.
In the book, it says that if you make the keywords as capital letters, it's gonna be an error.
Well,
I don't think you used any capital letters in your test files anyway.
I'm not giving you any capital letters, period.
Okay, just kept leaving the numbers, and that's it.
And except for the E and float.
Yeah, because I assumed that like,
But-
we weren't going to get
All keywords are reserved and must be written in lowercase.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I say, capital is floating point. Or I mean, capital is an identifier.
is it identifier or error?
There should be an identifier.
Do an ID.
Either case, you didn't test files.
Yeah, and so on the next page, on 492, it says letter is A, Z, A, so that says that uppercase characters are permissible, but the keywords have to be in lowercase, which it lists. And so you can have uppercase. Now, it's just another part of an if statement. It doesn't add anything. All of my projects, or all of my test files are in lowercase, except for the E on float. Okay? But technically, I could give uppercase, according to the definition. Okay? Anything else? Questions? Kevin?
I just wanted to, I thought that everything was, except for the E was supposed to be in lowercase, so I had it so that it just accepts so the only uppercase it'll ever accept is the E in a float. So, is that all right, or should I?
Isn't that what I just said?
Yeah, I was just wondering,
That's what I just said.
yeah.
Everything will be given in lowercase. You should accept lowercase. I will give nothing in uppercase, except for the E.
Okay, so that works then.
Okay? Anything else?
This is not really about the project, but it's can you tell me what's the difference between like the front end of a compiler and the back end of the compiler?
So the front end of the compiler is what we're doing in this class. The back end of the compiler is what you did in system software.
Okay.
So in this class, we're taking high-level instructions like if and while and translating them into
Lower level.
assembly language, a form of assembly language. in system software, you took assembly language and translated it into machine code or binary. So that GCC is actually a suite of programs. It's lots of programs. And so it contains the front end of the compiler as well as the back end of the compiler. So GCC is made of a lexical analyzer, a parser, a semantic analyzer, code generator, then translation of the code into binary, which you get in A.out if it's C. Other questions? All right, so now we're reviewing left factoring and left recursion. All right, so the compiler, the front end of the compiler wants to always know what to do. The compiler does not backtrack. It passes through the input program, comparing it to the grammar to make sure that the grammar can generate that program. And that's the purpose of the parser primarily. The lexical analyzer, of course, simply creates tokens. So if I have a grammar that starts with S goes to A, or B, that's a nice normal B, not a beta. You know the difference between betas and alphas and A's and B's, yes? And so BB. So, the parser is looking at an S. It's got a leftmost derivation. And so it's got a bunch of characters, it's got an S, it's got a bunch of characters potentially in a derivation sequence. You all know how to do leftmost derivations, yes? And so in a top-down parser, the next step is to replace this S by its right-hand side. Okay? Which does it do?
Right.
It doesn't know what to do except that presumably this program is going to be made up of A's and B's. This is the input program. And so I'm going to be looking at a token. Each individual character now is a token. It's like a group. It's an if. It's a while. It's an XXXXI. It's a token. So rather than talk about XXXI, I'm talking about a single character that represents a complete token. You with me? That makes sense? So we're taking the lexical analyzer for granted at this point. That's all in place. So we've got single entity items to think about. My single entity items are A's and B's. So I'm looking at an A. This A must tell the parser whether to replace the S in the next step by AA or by BB. The current token tells which one of these to choose in the next step. We're doing top-down parsing. Now again, you know the difference between top-down parsing and bottom-up parsing? Do you? Don't be shy. All you gotta do is this. Or this.
You talking to me?
I was pointing at her. But I'll pick on you instead. No? No? All right, so save this. So if I look at a grammar that does something, so I have a grammar here that's got 6 rules, it does stuff. So for example, I could have a derivation sequence So I generated a program. This program is C, or Java, or Python. All your programs that you write that are given to a compiler are a terminal string generated by a grammar, which you learned in Computability and Automata. You learned about terminal strings generated by grammars. The only difference between us and Computability and Automata is that Computability and Automata might have talked about context-sensitive grammars and unrestricted grammars and Turing machines. We're only interested in regular grammars and context-free grammars here. That's as far as we go. But nevertheless, the stuff you learned about grammars and the generation of strings and alphabets and all of that is relevant here. So in this case, I have an alphabet equal to plus, star, paren, and A. That's my alphabet. Those are the terminal characters that can be generated by my grammar. We know this. These are production rules that tell how to generate strings. And I did here a leftmost derivation, which you just told me you knew how to do, right? And so this is not earth-shaking. And so if we look at a parse tree, then our parse tree mimics the leftmost derivation. So I start out with the start symbol of the grammar, and I can replace it by T plus E, by F, by A, by T, by F, by star, by T, by A, by F, by A, and so I've got my terminal string generated, or at least the showing of its generation via a parse tree. Okay? Again, you did this with Ron, did you not? Okay, so this is kind of review. What was all that?
That was Lydia.
No, but we have.
That was Lydia. That was Lydia, all right. I've had people walk out of class and stuff before, but I've never in all 31 years had somebody do kind of a dance as they went.
Hey, just keep it fresh.
Well, so when I get into a presentation or talk about something for a little while, and I feel like you're all starting to get bored or something like that, or starting to drift off, I'll stop and tell stories. I don't need to tell a story now, she just did it for me. She woke you all up.
Are you gonna tell that as a story?
I'm sorry?
Are you gonna tell that as a story to the next class?
I still don't understand.
Are you gonna tell that as a story to the next class?
Yeah, I might. How could I do it? I could say I had this strange experience by the student who got up and walked out of class and did a dance as they left. Being confused. Confused as to why they did that. Well, so we know that the recursive descent parser for this, and again, you did this before, it looks like function E calls function T, accepts plus calls function E. Function T calls function F, accepts asterisk, calls function T. Function F accepts a paren, calls function E, and accepts a paren. Or, and so if the next token is equal to a paren, it accepts a paren. If the next token is equal to an A, it accepts an A. So that's the pseudocode of your actual parser, which again, Ron did with you. And so I've got A plus A star A. So my start symbol, my main routine calls function E. So function E, and my current token is A, so function E calls function T. Function T calls function F. Function F says if the next token is a right paren, a left paren, if the next token is an A, accept an A. So function F accepts an A, which moves my lexical analyzer to the plus. Function F falls out the bottom. Function F says, returns to function T, which says accept an asterisk. But I'm not looking at an asterisk, I'm looking at a plus. So there's an if in the front of this that says if the next token is an asterisk, accept an asterisk. Otherwise, do we want me to write that in there? If next token equals asterisk, accept an asterisk. If next token equals plus. Again, I pseudocoded this quickly because you've seen this before. And so this is supposed to be review, right? You've seen this before?
Yes.
Yes. So this is not new. So it doesn't see an asterisk, so function T falls out the bottom here after it's called function F. Function E, then it returns 2, and it says if the next token is a plus, it is a plus. So function E accepts the plus. And my lexical analyzer gives me the next token, accepts the plus, it calls function E. So do I need to finish this? You understand how the parser works. Okay? Well, so we have issues here if we look at these two rules. how does the parser know what? So if I have S goes to S, M, or S, N, or A, B, or B, C, if I have a grammar rule that looks like that, how will the parser know what to do? The answer is it's guaranteed it can't know what to do, and not only that, this is even worse. Because function S, what's function S going to do? Maybe.
Go to itself.
The first thing it's going to do is call function S. When function S is called, what's the first thing it's going to do?
Call itself.
Call function S. Call function S. How good is the program going to execute? It's not going to execute very well. It's going to call function S for a few thousand times, and then it's going to crash. Right? So, for parsers that work like this, we can't have the same symbol immediately. This is left recursion. Okay? So there's an easy fix. A goes to A, alpha, or beta. Okay? Left recursion, yes? Not left recursion, yes? Yes, not, why? That makes sense? Yes, yes, not? Well, because beta is a string of characters. It's a string of grammar symbols. Okay? It doesn't start with an A, because if it did, we'd write an A first. It starts with something else. So this is grammar symbols not beginning with A. What's alpha?
Whatever it is.
Grammar symbols. We don't care what they are. They started with an A. They're just more grammar symbols. Grammar symbols. All right, so the fix is A goes to A prime beta, and A prime goes to
Alpha.
I thought it was beta.
Or epsilon.
I thought it was beta A prime. Yeah.
Or epsilon.
Bring me in, man.
I'm still in the Indian Ocean, I think. I mean, I've only written this for 30 years. And so in this example, this is an A alpha, this is an A alpha, this is a beta, this is a beta. So S goes to A, B, S prime, or B, C, S prime goes to M, S prime, or N, S prime, or empty. So this grammar generates what this grammar generated, only the grammar is in a different form. They are equivalent grammars because they will generate the same terminal strings. Brandon.
If you had a beta that was an epsilon, you would handle it by just having a prime go to it, correct?
Yes. And I put that on all the quizzes.
No.
And so what Brandon says is, suppose I had an empty right here. Then I'm going to have an S prime all by itself to allow for that empty.
Makes sense.
We understand left recursion. We understand left recursion, why it's bad, because for a top-down parser, it will put the parser into infinite recursion. So that's bad. And we understand how to fix it. Cool? Now there's one additional caveat, a little bit. If I go back to here, and actually, I apologize, camera. I'm not as good today. I'm jumping at two different places. I'll get better. I'm supposed to be good. So, if S goes to A goes to B, D, B goes to S, M, A goes to A, B goes to B. Now I've got a good grammar, yes? What do I mean by, no?
Well, would
Yeah.
Well, AA generates a terminal string. BB generates a terminal string. This generates a terminal string. This will generate a terminal. So I claim this is a good grammar. By a good grammar, we have two things. All production rules are reachable, and all production rules can participate in generating a terminal string. Again, that's computability and automata stuff you learn.
And it shouldn't be ambiguous.
And what?
It shouldn't be ambiguous, like you shouldn't get the same,
It should not be ambiguous. It turns out we're sort of talking about two different things now. A non-ambiguous grammar is necessary for a compiler. But if you're just talking about generating terminal strings, you can put up with an ambiguous grammar. What's an ambiguous grammar do? It says there's two different ways of generating the same terminal string. Well, if you're trying to build strings, who cares? If you're trying to parse it, build a compiler, then you do care, because the compiler doesn't want to have choices. The compiler wants to know what to do at every step of the game. So ambiguous grammars are bad for compilers. Ambiguous grammars are not necessarily bad in general. All right. Well, so we argue this is a good grammar, except function S is going to call function A and accept a little a. Function A is going to call function B and accept a D. But function B is going to call an S. So we have S calls A, who calls B, who calls S, without consuming any tokens. What's going to happen to our program when we run it? It's going to call, S is going to call A, it's going to call B, it's going to call S, it's going to call A, it's going to call D, it's going to call S, and it's going to do that for a few thousand times and then crash. So we got to fix it. Well, the fix for this isn't as easy, because what we need to do is substitutions. So S goes to A, but A is a BD, and so I put BD in for the A. I substituted it in. I've still got the BB at the end, but I've essentially done away with this, and I've essentially done away with that because I don't have A's anymore. And so I've got B goes to SM, A goes to A, and B goes to B. So that's my new grammar. My new grammar is arguably equivalent to my old grammar. You with me? So what am I going to do next? I'm going to put Brandon.
Andrew.
Andrew. You were Brandon last Thursday. There was 2 Brandons in a row. All right. You guys are making my life less than easy. You want to know why?
Need assigned seats.
Yeah, you're not sitting in the same place all the time. It is human nature for people to sit in the same place. Francisco is. Brandon is. Eric isn't. Jasmine is. Anyway, Andrew. I should know you, though. Have I seen you before?
Last semester.
All right, that's maybe one. I was just around last semester. That's all. Andrew.
When you replace the first A with BD, it could also be, you could have AA or BDA for S. And you have 2 options. You have 2 options for big A.
Oh, yeah. And so Brandon says, or Andrew says I did this wrong. And so I can have S goes to B, D, A, or B, B, or A, A.
Right. Yep.
And then S goes to SM, A goes to A, and B goes to B.
B goes to SM.
Yeah, B goes to SM and then you don't need the second A.
Yeah, it's not S goes to SM, it's B goes to SM.
Second line, that should be B.
That should be B.
And the third line is no longer necessary,
Yeah.
A goes to A is not
because A is never called.
And I cross off that.
So this is good. I really like this. Because at least some of you know what's going on. You know how to fix it. You know what, well, you know what I'm doing. Good? Questions? Confusion by anyone else?
It's still broken.
I'm sorry?
It's still broken.
What do you say?
Yes.
It's still broken.
Still no good?
Yeah.
We're not done. And so S goes to B, B goes to S, I still have recursion. So now I'm going to put B in. And so I'm going to be more careful. S goes to B, who is SMDA, or SMB, or BDA, or BB, or AA.
No.
No?
You got the other B rule.
You kind of worded it.
I wasn't done yet.
You put it.
I don't need that.
You can't do that because you don't have B. Yeah. So you got substituted in.
You already did.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you already did that. You can't get rid of it.
That's right.
All right, there we go.
He's just trying to confuse me now. So I claim this grammar is equivalent to my original grammar. Now I can fix it. So this is an A alpha, this is an A alpha, this is a beta, this is a beta, this is a beta. Right? Make sense? Why are they A alphas and betas? Anything that starts with S's is going to be an A alpha. Anything that doesn't start with an S is going to be a beta. And so I fix it with, S goes to BDA, S prime, or BBS prime, or AAS prime. Why S prime? It's any new non-terminal of the grammar. It doesn't have to be S prime. It's just got to be a unique non-terminal. So I've got S's and A's and B's. I could say BDA D, uppercase D, because I didn't have D anywhere else ever before. The texts use S prime or use primes because primes are never part of an original grammar. So it makes it a unique non-terminal. And so S prime goes to MDA S prime, or MB S prime, or empty. And I fixed the non-immediate left recursion. So all of today is the manipulations necessary to make a grammar top-down recursive descent parsable. Okay? Okay, so left recursion is one of them. Top-down recursive descent parsable. All right, well, and I don't know for sure if I finished it, but if I have my grammar, S goes to AA or BB. The parser needs to know what to do. How does it know? A goes to M, B goes to N. Terminal. If my current token is an M, I replace S by AA. I use this one. Make sense? If my current token is an N, I use this one. If A also went to N, I can't parse it. My parser doesn't know what to do and is confused. Okay? So, what this generates and what this generates must be unique. They must have nothing in common for a recursive descent parser to be able to parse it. Okay? Cool? If we walk back over here and we look at this, I got a T and I got a T. Does the parser know what to do? Well, Andrew's right. No, it doesn't. But yet, I wrote the parser and I was parsing. So I was surviving. Why was I surviving? Because I didn't really use the grammar the way I wrote it, I cheated. What's bad thing, never cheat. I really did this. I really did without writing it all, I really did E goes to T X. And X goes to plus E or empty. That's what I really coded, because I called T automatically. And then I did this. This is really function X in here. It does plus E, or nothing. So these are the grammar rules that I coded off of this. And I could do it because it's so simple. You know, there's not very many grammar rules, so I could just kind of look at it. I did the same thing on T. I did T goes to F, B, and I'm just making these up. X and B I didn't make up, they're not important. I mean, they could be anything. B goes to asterisk T or empty. Make sense? This is a form of left factoring. Now it looks like left recursion, almost, because I've got the same stuff here, but this is not this. So it's not left recursive, but this and this have things in common. And so the parser doesn't know what to do, really. Okay? Make sense? Left factor. Well, and it isn't that simple. Because, again, if I have S goes to A or B, well, that looks different, right? But is it different? I don't know. If A goes to D and B goes to D, now the parser doesn't know what to do. If it sees a D, does it call AA or does it call BB? It doesn't know. So this grammar too needs to be somehow fixed so that the choices are unique. This grammar with what I've given you arguably can't be fixed. And so, well, so it can't be fixed. Well, but if I gave a different grammar like AAM or ABN, look at that grammar a little bit. Well, if I have A goes to B and B goes to B, well, so this is a good grammar. I mean, it generates a terminal string. Can the parser parse it? Well, it can't right now because it sees A's in both cases. Well, so let's fix that. So we write S goes to AP. And I'm making up new letters all the time to reinforce the fact it's any letter that I haven't used before. It's a new non-terminal. Now, P goes to AM or BN. Well, and I still got A goes to B and B goes to B, and So now this rule is good. There's no choices, so it's gotta be good. This rule, not so hot. Because A goes to B, and so if I'm looking at a B, I don't know which one to do. Well, so maybe I can do things like this. I can do P goes to BM or BN. I put the A's and B's in. Well, now I can write P goes to BW and W goes to M or N. Now, this one's good, this one's good, this is good, and so I've got a grammar that I now can parse.
Could you do S goes to AB and then a P,
I could do that.
and then the P goes to
Yeah. Yep, I can do it. I wouldn't have to do it in 2 steps. I can do it in 1 step. Yep. Andrew?
So we could have fixed the previous grammar the same way, right? Just move the terminals up and then do a left factoring.
Uh-huh. So you got several things that are sort of going on with manipulations that look sort of the same. I substituted up to do left factoring, and I also substituted up when I did left recursion. So you got to look at your grammar and try to figure out how to fix it. A grammar is really little different than a program. You write a grammar that does something. It generates terminal strings. You write a program that does something, whatever it might be. What do you do when your program doesn't work? Yeah, you debug it. You try to figure out what in the world's going on, and you try to change it so it does work. So you're doing the same thing with this grammar. Are there any specific guaranteed rules that you can follow to fix your program? Not really. There's some hints. There's some things you can try, but there's nothing that says if you do this and then this and then this and then this, your program's going to work. There's not a guarantee on the grammar either. If you do this and you do this and you do this, the grammar is now top-down parsable. Nope, doesn't happen. There is the left recursion. The left recursion is guaranteed to work. But the left factoring might fix it, might not fix it. The grammar might simply not be top-down parsable. So you give it a shot, and you see if will work. Okay? Well, so is this grammar top-down recursive descent parsable? Why do I not hear responses?
No.
Well, you should be jumping up and down and saying, Matt, no way.
It is stored.
Why not?
Absolutely.
So this grammar as it is not top-down parsing. Make sense? So fix it. Or at least try to fix it. So, well, we know how to fix the first rule. So S goes to A, X. X goes to D, B, H, or E, B. The second rule is top-down parsable because it doesn't have any choices. G goes to B, G, or empty. D goes to E, F. This rule is parsable because it doesn't have any choices. E goes to G, or empty. We know how to fix the F rule too, yes? It's left recursive. We're good at left recursion now. When I say we're, I mean mostly you all. So, F goes to M, F prime, or F prime. F prime goes to D, F prime, or empty. Is this grammar now top-down recursive descent parsable? So why do you dance out of class? What? You can answer me.
Oh, because I ate something earlier today.
Well, but that didn't cause you to dance, did it?
Oh,
I ate
oh.
something earlier today too. I had, what I had? I had 2 eggs and 2 sausages and 2 pieces of toast. And some blueberries.
You were looking at me and I just didn't know what to do, so like, I don't know, like, you know, you caught me.
Yeah, and so I do that and I apologize. I should have done it to Eric too, but he got away before I had a chance.
Yeah, you should do it to everybody.
I should, and I intend
Like
to.
stare them down and like make them
Exactly.
uncomfortable.
I intend to stare you down because I don't want you to walk out of class all that much because it interrupts the flow, interrupts class. On the other hand, if you ate something in the morning and you have to deal with it, I prefer you deal with it outside of class. So I will do that. You come to class late, I'll probably stare you down with the goal of causing you to come to class on time. Now, you came out, I mean, and so I was just standing here. Well, so I didn't do anything, I was just standing here. I'm not that nice a person. I think that's the conclusion. But your dance was pretty creative. It was impressive. All right, is this grammar now top-down parsable? Why not? I don't have any left recursion.
The B and G.
Rule number 2.
So D goes to E. Oh man, I got an E. So D goes to E. Well, so the grammar really looks like AX, X goes to E, F, B, H, or E, B. B goes to C, G. G goes to B, G, or empty. D I did. E goes to G or empty. F goes to M, F prime or F prime. F prime goes to D, F prime or empty. So that's really the way the grammar looks. And clearly, this is not top-down recursive descent parsable. Yes?
Just to clarify, for the fourth line, G goes to,
See, it worked just as well. I stood in front of Eric too. What, Lydia? Is that your name? I stood in front of him too. But he didn't dance on the way he was coming back in, so. Not cool, right? When I say not cool, right, you're supposed to do something. You can't just say, yeah, like, that's good. And so, well, so I know how to fix it. So S goes to AX, X goes to EY, Y goes to FBH or B, B goes to CG, G goes to BG or empty, E goes to G or empty, F goes to M, F prime or F prime, F prime, F prime goes to D, F prime or empty. All right, now is this grammar top-down recursive descent parsable? Well, I don't know. Let's see. This rule is good. Why is it good? Why is it guaranteed good? Because it doesn't have any choices. If it doesn't have any choices, the parser's going to know what to do. It's got to replace the S by AX. Now, if I'm not looking at an A at that point, if my current token isn't an A, then I report error. The current token must be an A. But at least the parser knows what to do. It either replaces the S with AX, or it reports error. The parser knows what to do. This rule is good. Again, there's no choices. So it's going to know what to do. Is this rule good? Maybe. What must be the case for this rule to be good?
Needs to.
Clearly, B is generated here. This F must not generate a B. It must generate any character other than a B. If it generates any character other than a B, this is a good rule. Well, let's see. F generates an M, and then F generates what F prime generates, which is a D. So it looks like F generates an M and a D. And a question mark, which is an unknown. And the unknown is because of this. We don't know how to handle the empties yet. That's coming on Tuesday. So we just hold off on the empties. But clearly F generates an M, yes? And it generates an F prime, so whatever F prime generates, F is going to generate. And what we're really doing is we're talking about F prime D in our parse tree. Our parser mimics the parse tree. Our parser mimics a leftmost derivation. Now, of course, F might go away, in which case I've written question mark. But at least there's no B in here yet. And so we think this is probably good. Good. How do we know it's good? Because there's no choices.
Yes.
Probably good. We don't know it's good because, again, we don't know how to handle the empty.
Probably good.
We don't, probably good. We don't know how to handle the empty.
Good.
Probably good. Because F prime can do an empty, so we still got an empty to deal with.
But that's good stuff.
But F does what F prime does. F does what F prime does, and F prime does an empty. So F's got to be probably good too. Because F relies on F prime, and F prime is probably good, but we don't know for sure it's good until we learn how to handle the empties.
Well, then is X probably good then? Because X goes to E and E can go to empty. So X is also probably good.
So yeah, so very good, Brandon. So this is probably good too. Probably good because E goes to G, who also goes to empty. So this E could go away. And if this E goes away, then we got to look at Y. Well, Y goes to F, who goes to M, who goes to M prime, who goes to empty. So this whole thing could arguably ultimately go empty.
And S too.
Not S. S is guaranteed to generate an A.
But it's also probably good.
S has got to generate an A, so it doesn't go away. But X might go away.
It definitely can't because Y cannot go away because Y either generates an H or a B at some point, right?
So this can't entirely go away exactly. The E can go away, but the Y can't go away because even if the F goes away and the B goes away, it's still going to generate an H. So it can't go away entirely. Excellent. That's the stuff you got to look at. I mean, you got to figure out what can happen here. Very good.
Why is the F prime calling itself F prime not a problem?
Because we fixed the left recursion. Right here, we fixed the left recursion. When we fix the left recursion, we get this. And when we get this, we got an empty. Compiling would be lots easier if empty productions were not allowed. We jumped through a whole bunch of hoops and learned a whole bunch of stuff because of those dumb empties. So this stuff I did make sense? What I'm doing is I'm looking at what this can generate. I'm looking at what this can generate versus this to decide if it's good. Okay? What that is has a formal name, and that is called first set. And what it simply means is we're looking at the terminal characters that a non-terminal can generate. And since it's the leftmost of a production, it's what it can generate first. First set. Brandon?
So first set is encompassing of left recursion and left factor.
First sets
Or those two.
allow us to check if a grammar has any conflicts.
And those and
and eliminating left recursion and doing left factoring is a grammar manipulation that is designed to try to make a grammar have no conflicts in their first sets. The first sets of this versus the first set of that. If they have nothing in common, then our parser will know what to do. If they have a terminal character in common, then our parser is confused. And so the parser may not be able to parse it. Now, our parser was confused here, but we were able to left factor it and unconfuse it. We went to here. Our parser was confused here because the first of D contained a G, and the first of E contained a G. And it was obvious that they would because D went to E. So I look at what can D generate? Well, I look at D. D generates what E generates. Well, I look at E. E generates a G. So I wrote G in here for D because D went to E. Make sense? So we think we can do first sets. We think we can't do first sets all that good yet. Well, maybe you can. Ron, did you do lots of first sets?
Well, no, there's something I want to tell you that you skipped over that we barely touched on. If you want to go over that before we go too much in the first sets. And
What's that?
I'll show you what I got here.
John, remember that? Because for that project, there is a terminal character before it early versus
This up here?
it has a direct call to itself. Because if you think about what we're actually doing is we're going to say, oh, we call that prime as a function, right? That prime's going to say, what's the next level say? D. Okay,
Well,
D, then I call it prime again. But the program doesn't have a D anymore. So then moved on. Then
Hold that,
do
do that example number.
No.
Yes, that's why that's how we eliminate, like, that's the purpose of eliminating recursion. Because the D wants, since it was at the time, the D then would be opposite at the time. Before saying it's my something that I'm actually not.
So you all have had computability and automata. It's a real prerequisite for this class. I would claim we have real prerequisites and we have artificial prerequisites. Calculus is a prerequisite for CS1. You didn't do any calculus in CS1. It's an artificial prerequisite. Computability and automata is a real prerequisite. You're expected to know regular grammars, context-free grammars, push-down automata, finite state machines. We've already done that. You're also expected to know how to simplify grammars. How do you simplify grammars? You throw out unreachable and useless productions. What is an unreachable production? Well, it's a production you can't get to. Unreachable. Make sense? What's a useless production? A production that can't generate a terminal string. Grammars generate terminal strings. If a production, a non-terminal, can't participate in the generation of a terminal string, throw it out. It contributes nothing. All right, so we look at A goes to A, or B, or B. We look at B goes to B, D, or B, A. Simplify this grammar. Well, so we think about it a little bit. A goes to B, B, who goes to B, D, B, who goes to A, B, A, D, B, who goes to... Give me the terminal string.
You're done.
Exactly what he says. Can't get a terminal string. Every step I make has another non-terminal B. B can't contribute to the generation of a terminal string. Therefore, it contributes nothing to the grammar.
No, that's perfect.
So I throw out B, I throw out B, I throw out B. My grammar is now A goes to A, or B. These rules could generate a terminal string, but the B's couldn't. Now, when I throw out B's rules, I throw out all of this. I don't throw out just the B, I throw out this B too. I throw out the whole rule. This has simplified the grammar. This is computability in automata. I shouldn't have to say anything about it. If I write a grammar, A goes to A, B goes to B. The first rule I write is the start symbol. That's convention. We do it that way because that's the way we want to do it. Simplify the grammar. What can I do? I can eliminate the B rule. Why? It's unreachable, exactly. I can't get to it from the start. Cool? All right, so that was a sidelight that Ron wanted me to talk to you about. But we were actually playing with first sets over here. So and first sets are not on your quiz, so we'll practice first sets yet Tuesday, and also how to handle the empty on Tuesday. Then you're pretty well good to go on project 2. Right?
For simplification of that rule, you still have to eliminate left recursion to fully simplify the rule.
So you got to be careful on what the question is. If the question is simplify the grammar, then you're eliminating productions that can't generate terminal strings and productions that are unreachable. Simplify the grammar doesn't imply make it top-down parsable. 2 different things. Left recursion and left factoring are tools to try to make a grammar top-down parsable. The grammar might be a good grammar, just like we talked about before, for ambiguous grammars. An ambiguous grammar might be a good grammar in some instances. Grammars that are not top-down parsable might be good. Well, we're going to do bottom-up parsing. So bottom-up parsing doesn't care about some of this stuff. So they're good grammar. It's the context in which you're talking about. Make sense? So, So we're practicing first sets a little bit. So S goes to A, B, B, or C, D, or A. A goes to A, or empty. B goes to B. C goes to, I'm making this simple. C goes to D, or empty. D goes to M, or empty. All right, cool. What can D generate? What?
In order for us to make it parsable, do we assume it's already been simplified, or is that like completely separate? Do we assume it's been simplified, or? In order to be parsable, do we assume it's been simplified and?
If I should give you a grammar, which I'll only do by mistake, but if I should give you a grammar that says, make this grammar top-down parsable if possible, and I give you a production rule that can't generate a terminal string, or production rules that are unreachable, then you immediately throw them out.
So we simplify first.
You simplify it first. It makes no sense to try to make a grammar top-down parsable with rules you can't get to. You can't get to them, you don't need to worry about it as a parser. So you pitch them first. Now in general, I try to keep those two things separate. But you never know what might happen if I ever get over the jet lag. I'm getting better, but I'm not as wobbly as I used to be. Felt like I was still on the airplane. And the airplane was rough. I mean, it was bouncing all over the place. Boeing 777-300. Three seats, 4 seats, 3 seats. Yeah, you'll love this. I hated it. 3 seats, window, 4 seats, 3 seats, window. That was my seat. Stuck in the middle with no leg room, no elbow room, no nothing. I had a nice young lady that was sitting left of me though. This young girl. Like you. I think she might have been, I don't know. She was a young girl. She was way younger than me. So she's watching this movie. And so I pointed at her screen, and I pointed at my screen. So she reached over and found the movie for me so I could watch the movie and she could watch it. She's a nice girl. She also took my sugar. They gave us a snack with a little thing of sugar. Well, I didn't eat the sugar. I don't eat sugar. So she reached over and pointed, so I gave her the sugar. Then I got another snack. She didn't have to ask. I just gave her the sugar the second time. So the first of D, the first of C, the first of B, of A, of S. And so what we're really asking is, what might these non-terminals generate? Well, so this is, I start these at the bottom because normally the production rules at the bottom are simpler than the production rules at the top. It's just the way people write grammar. So I start at the bottom. D generates an M or an empty. C generates a D or an empty. B generates a B. And these are sets. And so you list an item once. A generates an A or an empty. And so those all were easy. Well, so then S generates what A generates. So A generates an A. Did S generate an empty out of here? Well, no, because if A goes away, if A generates an empty, then S generates what B generates first. Since B can't go away, I'm done. B generates a B. S generates what C generates. C generates a D. C can go away. C can generate empty. So S might generate, we're writing all possibilities. S generates what D generates. D generates an M. D also can go away. C and D can go away. So S can go away. So I include an empty in the first of S. S can generate an A. So I include an A. I already got an A. This is my first set of S. Make sense? That's all there is to it. There's no more. If you understand what I just did, you know how to build first sets. Why do we want to build first sets? Because when we have options in the parser, one option has to be unique versus the other option. Make sense? Yes, and first.
Would that be parsable? Because it seems not.
We think this is a step in deciding if it's parsable. So when I ask, give me the first set, you list the first sets.
Yeah.
If I ask, is this grammar parsable, you calculate the first sets and then answer. So to be parsable, we're looking at the first of ABD. So the first of A is A or empty. The first of B is B. So I got an A and B. I got an A and B for this one. I've got for C and D, first of C is D and empty. First of D is M. So M and empty. So these two are okay. First of A is A. So it's not top-down parsable because there's a conflict between this and this one. So the answer is no.
Okay.
He had his hand up. Hand still up? Somebody? Cameron?
It might be a technicality. Technically, can S only produce B sequentially because B will always produce B, and then afterwards it'll have the S, the B is the smaller case B as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think what Cameron's saying is if we generated something, we go A, B, B, A can generate A, B can generate B. So whatever we generate, starting with this rule, is going to end at BB. We don't care. I think you do.
All right.
Okay? Questions? I gotta learn your names. I know him. No, I can't read my writing. Ochoa. Not too good, huh? All right.
What happens, like, I know we're not handling empty right now, but if we were handling empties and A was empty and D was empty, and end up with just a B and A, every other non-terminal was empty, would that make this parsable, top-down parsable, because we have a B A instead of an A and an A collision?
So I only picked up about every third word of what you asked me.
I think what he's saying is suppose that there was a production that was big B goes to empty, right? He said suppose that production was in there.
Uh-huh.
He said therefore it's possible that A and B in the S production, the big A and the big B would both go to empty and then S could then yield just a B. He saying, suppose that, would that make this parsable?
Yeah, so the answer is no. If there's any possibility of a conflict, then the answer is no. There might be some ways that it could parse, but we're looking at sort of worst case scenarios. We're looking at all possibilities. We're listing here all of the possible characters that might be generated. And so there might be some unique scenarios for which it could parse. But for us to build a parser, we want it to work all the time. Not most of the time, or some of the time. So if there's any possibility of a conflict, then we say no. Good? On Tuesday, we will practice first sets and learn how to deal with the empty. And that might take us all day.